Hola, hello. Hi,
Hi.
can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you perfectly. How's it going?
It's going well, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. I am David, el profe. What is your name?
My name is Steve.
Steve. Hi, Steve. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So, do you want to learn how to speak Spanish?
I do. Am I the only one on the call?
So far, yeah.
Okay.
The one on Wednesday afternoon is usually a little smaller. I usually get 2 or 3 people here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been using Duolingo for about a year now,
Mm-hmm.
and I seem to do well with the lessons, but then when I get in front of somebody, I just freeze up.
Yep, I understand. So Duolingo, I'm a Duolingo global ambassador, which means I host these practice sessions for Duolingo users from all over the world. Duolingo is really strong in terms of practice and vocabulary, in terms of practical teaching and preparing you for real life conversations. Not so much. So it's common. I get a lot of people that have been using it for a long time, and you know a lot of Spanish, you build up a nice vocabulary, but when it goes to talking to somebody, that tongue just doesn't move for you, does it?
Right.
So yeah, I'm a Spanish professor, and I'm really dedicated to helping my students learn how to speak the language. I offer conversation classes. I see your little I don't know, is that a painting in the background? But are you in Colorado, I guess?
I am. I am in Denver.
Yeah, nice. I'm in Denver too. Hola, Sally.
Hola, David. ¿Cómo estás hoy?
Muy bien, ¿y tú?
Sí, muy bien.
Te presento a Steve.
Hola,
Bien.
Steve.
Sí. Hola.
¿Cómo estás hoy?
Muy bien. Gracias. ¿Y tú?
Sí, muy bien. Vivo en Minneapolis. No vivo en Denver.
Muy frío en Minneapolis.
En este momento, no. Hace calor y aproximadamente 70 grados Fahrenheit.
¡Qué lindo!
Sí. Hace mucho lluvia esta mañana.
So rain has its own independent verb, llover.
Llover.
L-L-O-V-E-R.
Ah,
So here you'd want to use it in the preterite. Llovió mucho esta mañana.
excelente. Llovió mucho esta mañana.
Good. Well, Steve was just kind of telling me a little bit about his experience. He's been using Duolingo for about a year. And I guess looking for some extra ways to improve his conversational skills. So Steve, since this is the first time that you're here with us, the purpose of today is really to provide tutoring and give you help with homework. Like it's a meeting. It's got the idea that you're enrolled in a Spanish program somewhere, and you're kind of struggling with maybe certain aspects of the language. And so I invite my students on Wednesday to come in here with specific questions or areas that they need help with. So it's an open format. We just talk, and I kind of teach Spanish, or English language learners are invited here as well. So hopefully somebody will come in. But yeah, it's just an open informal kind of study session that we do here on Wednesdays. Hola, Ángela.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, Ángela.
Muy bien, ¿y tú?
Más o menos.
Más o menos, ¿qué tienes?
I play test for a game that I play, and it was kind of driving me nuts. So ran into a lot of bugs, which is a good thing because that's what I'm supposed to be doing, is checking for that. But it was also very frustrating.
¿Es un juego en línea? Es un juego en línea. La computadora.
Un
Sí.
videojuego.
Video
Videojuego.
Oh,
juego.
okay, okay.
A video game. And what Sally was asking, is it an online game?
Oh, okay. I wasn't catching that part. Sorry.
No hay problema.
Cool. Does anybody have anything they want to work on today?
No. I don't think
Well,
so.
I have been following your advice, David, and studying the preterite.
Sorry, that's just so shocking for me to hear somebody's been following my advice.
Oh no!
You know, this day and age, it's like people don't want to do that. So thank you, Sally. Good.
Advice is always good. And what I've done, and it's el tiempo pretérito. El tiempo pretérito. Cuando una cosa ocurrió una vez en el pasado. ¿Correcto? Sí. Y entonces, esta semana, yo he tenido viendo, watching videos.
Esta semana estaba viendo videos.
Estaba viendo videos en YouTube sobre pretérito.
Muy bien.
Sí. Es muy útil. Es muy útil.
Cool.
Y después encontré drills en la computadora.
Ejercicios.
Ejercicios en línea para practicar.
Cool. I've actually got an activity that we can do to practice
Fun.
on the preterite right now.
Bueno.
Cool. So I know, Angela, you're not quite up to the preterite. So
Not yet.
Steve, have you been introduced to the preterite, the simple past tense in Spanish yet?
I have not. I mean, just briefly, but just enough to get confused.
Okay. Cool.
Not really.
Well, allow me to confuse you more, or hopefully, no. Let me back up. Allow me to clarify your confusion
Sí.
here. All right, so. All right, so we'll take a verb like hablar, okay? It's an AR verb. And the first step is to understand how the verb is conjugated in the preterite. And when I do this, I just like to start with the tu y yo so that you can get comfortable asking questions in the tu form and answering them in the yo form, right? All right, so the ending for our AR verbs in the preterite with the yo form. So the rule is you take away the AR and then you add back these endings. So in the yo form, you're going to take away the AR and we're going to get our base. And I'm just going to put it in caps to make it easier to understand. Which means I should do that one in caps as well. Okay, so what would be applying this rule? I'm going to put you in the spotlight, Steve. Applying this rule, how would you say I spoke or I talked like yesterday?
Would it be hable?
Perfecto, muy bien. Yeah, yo hablé means I talked. For example,
Interesting.
all right. Hablé con mi mamá ayer, okay?
I talked to my mom last year.
So there's different ways there's different conjugations, there's different tenses, even just in the past tense, right? You've got the past, the preterite. This is the preterite. You've got the imperfect. You've got the progressive. You've got and then the perfect tenses. So the preterite is used to discuss, like, if this is our time continuum, and this is today. Now this is the past.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a reference with this word ayer to a very specific point in the past. Ayer means yesterday.
Oh yeah.
So
that's what
by
it is.
giving that time reference, ayer, we know that there is a very specific start and stop to the event. It started and it ended. So this is the simple present tense, the simple past tense, or the preterite tense, that helps us talk about activities that happened in the past. Not used to happen, not were happening. They started and ended. And so this time reference is important to understand, that this is an important component of the preterite to help clarify when we're talking in the past tense, right? So then, if I can come back here, oh, come on. There we go. In the to form, it would be tú hablaste. Tú, yeah. Does that make sense? So you talked to your mom yesterday. I talked to my mom yesterday. And the reason why I like to teach it this way is because now that we understand how that works, I can just make up this little conversational activity on the fly. What's another AR verb?
Comprar, comprar.
Comprar.
What were you going to say, Steve?
Tocar, is that right?
Tocar, muy bien. Perfecto. So we can, our time reference is ayer, meaning yesterday. So Steve, ayer caminaste? I could add more detail. ¿Caminaste en el parque ayer?
That makes sense.
Sí.
Do you understand the question, Steve?
Oh.
So I'm with caminaste.
Sí, hablé con mi mamá en el parque.
So I'm actually asking you, caminaste.
Oh, caminaste.
Which means, did you walk in the park yesterday?
Sí, caminé en el parque.
Muy bien. So just to put this on here, right? Steve is saying, sí, caminé, right? And the rest of it is going to be the same.
Okay.
Sí, caminé.
Makes sense.
Sally, ¿bailaste ayer?
Sí, yo bailé toda la noche.
I like that answer. Good answer. All right.
Hace mucho años, quizás.
Oh, but so I'm asking about last night, yesterday.
Sí.
Okay.
Sí, bailé toda la noche.
So I've seen baile, so that's actually saying
I danced.
like danced.
Sí.
Okay.
Yep.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting.
Ángela, ¿hablaste mucho?
Sí. Hablé mucho.
Mhm.
Bien. Steve, ayer compraste los víveres.
Sí, compré los víveres.
Do you know what víveres are?
I don't think so. I think I'm stuck on that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Maybe
good.
lives?
This is another thing that will take your conversation to the next level, Steve.
Oh. I was just about to say que significa.
All right.
What
So
did he say?
these are kind of three little statements, questions. No entiendo means I don't understand. You should never answer a question if you don't understand it. Instead, seek to understand. Spanish speakers will help you if you let them know that you're confused, right? It's just human nature to try and help people out. So never hesitate to say no entiendo. And then you could always say, for example, in this situation, Steve, ¿qué significa los víveres? So why don't you go ahead and ask me that?
¿Qué significa los
Víveres.
víveres?
Muy bien. Sally, do you know?
Posible cosas que necesita para vivir.
Muy bien, Sally. So what her answer was, things that you need in order to live. What do you need in order to live?
Oh.
Groceries.
Sí.
So this is the word for groceries in Spanish. I like that. It's simple. Like, honestly, what is a grocery? You know, that doesn't make any sense to me. But things that you need to live, that's what you buy at the grocery store. So that's what víveres. So I was asking you, Steve, ¿compraste los víveres ayer? Did you buy groceries yesterday?
Interesante.
You want to answer it again? Now that you know what it means.
Well, so wait, so say that again. So that whole saying is, did you buy groceries?
Yeah, so compraste, just this little AST on the end is
buy.
Yeah, so this,
no.
Let's see here.
Would it mean bought?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this little E with the accent mark or the AST is like in English saying did, right?
Okay.
Past.
Yeah.
Okay. Or just the past tense of the verb, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then los víveres means groceries. Did you buy groceries?
Sí, compré los víveres.
Perfecto, you got it, yeah.
Nice.
Ángela, ¿tocaste la guitarra ayer?
No. Toqué?
Mm-hmm.
No toqué la guitarra.
Easy peasy. Right.
I was trying to not overthink it. I was like, okay, come on.
So, that's just a really, obviously this is a very oversimplified
Cool.
introduction to the past tense. When I start by teaching a new verb like this, a new tense, I like to just do the when you're speaking a new language, you're more than likely going to be talking to a new person, and more than likely you're going to be asking questions in the to form and answering the questions in the yo form. Like this is 99.9% of the conversations you're going to have in Spanish for like the next 3 years. So that's why I like to start off with this, and it can just get overwhelming if I teach the whole verb chart.
That's
all right,
pretty cool.
Now I want to introduce you to a little application that I just love called Quizlet. Has anybody ever worked with Quizlet before?
think I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Heard of it.
No.
We've got a page on Quizlet. I can make sure to send you guys the link so that you can do this. But, you know, the old school way was to do these handwritten flashcards on these index cards, right? So you have like a little index card. This is how I learned Spanish, with these guys. I had like a 5-foot long box of these things. Like the one thing that I threw away from my college days that I wish I would have hung on to was that box of flashcards to show all my students. You know, it was a huge box. I mean, every new word I heard in Spanish, I wrote down on a flashcard. So learning how to speak Spanish is just, a language is really complex. There's a lot of complexity to it. And my interpretation of the language is to try and simplify it for you, my students, by reducing the complexity, because the way it's typically taught is just too confusing. And so like the activity we just did where I just do the tú y yo form, like that's to reduce the complexity, to really give you something that you can start using immediately. Like right now, you know, like I can only speak for Angela, that you're still like about 6 months away from studying the preterite with me in our program, five months. But like when I can just introduce it to you like that, now you can at least start using it in the tú y yo, and you're going to start recognizing that ending when you're listening to songs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, another thing to reduce the complexity of it is to understand that words are your most important asset when it comes to learning a new language. Focus less on grammar and more on words, because words are what you need in order to start talking, to start understanding, and you don't have to talk in complete sentences even. You know, if you get on a plane and go to Mexico tomorrow and walk into a restaurant and say burrito, like, do you think you're going to get a lemon pie? No, you're going to get a burrito. Like, you don't have to say anything else, you know? So words, that's the most important thing. So when I was learning Spanish 20 years ago, all we had was this. Nowadays, we have all this exciting technology to help us out. So I've created this set of flashcards on Quizlet. And if you've never seen it before, it's really a cool app. Like, how I wish this was here for me when I was learning Spanish. So I'm just going to pop it into a full screen real quick. There is a little science to using flashcards that can make it even more powerful for you. And this has to do with the way that learning any language, even your first language, or more importantly, your first language. When you were first learning how to speak English, you didn't start speaking it, you started understanding it. So step number one is to understand Spanish, not to speak it. Everybody says, oh, I want to learn how to speak Spanish. No. What you want is to learn how to understand it first, because by understanding things, you'll feel comfortable. It's very beneficial. So we're going to apply that same logic to these flashcards. So whenever you study with flashcards, it's always more beneficial for your brain, just the way that the cognitive function of your brain works and setting up these neurological pathways in your brain, to start by looking at the word in Spanish and trying to understand what it means in English. Let's see here. There is a way in Quizlet where you can change the settings here. And for some reason, I can't find it right now. There we go. So when you click on full screen like I just did, you come over here to the options, and then it'll give you this option, answer with Spanish, and I flip that over to answer with English for the first round.
Cool.
All right. It also helps you, like when you learn how to understand it, it makes it easier than to say it. So if you've learned, like there's a lot of science behind this. All right. Really cool thing about Quizlet is it does everything for you. You see the little volume button here?
Hable.
Hear that?
Interesting.
If you want to work on your pronunciation, it's all built into this application for you.
That's really cool.
Hable.
So the idea here is when you're doing this, I want you to click on that to listen to it.
Hable.
So Steve, what does hablé mean?
I spoke.
Yeah. So you click on the card and it flips it over for you. And here we say, I spoke. It also means I talked.
I talked.
So this is actually a good example.
Hmm.
If it's not 100% perfect, this is where you demand perfection. If it's not 100% perfect, click on this little star up in the top right. And I'm going to say, since you didn't say both, since you only said I spoke and you didn't say I talked, we want to review that. So when you click on the star, that's going to pop it into a second little subset so that you can review it, right? Now we're going to come down here and go to the right arrow and click on it. Sally, hablaste. Oh, sorry.
Hablaste.
What does that mean?
You spoke, you talked.
Yep, you flip it over, you got it right. Okay, perfect.
Nice.
Let's go on to the next one. Angela, caminé.
Caminé.
I walked.
You got it right, perfect. So this one is already starred. We're gonna unclick the star since you got it right. Okay, Steve, caminaste.
You walked.
You walked, you got it. Sally,
Cociné.
I cooked.
got it right. Angela,
Cocinaste.
You cooked.
got it right. Steve,
Estudié.
I studied.
got it right.
Estudiaste.
Sally,
You studied.
got it right. Angela,
Bailé.
I danced.
Steve,
Bailaste.
You danced.
cool. All right, so that should end this activity for us, right?
That's pretty
Now
cool.
you see the option, study one starred
Ah.
term. So we're gonna click on that.
Interesting.
Hablé.
Steve,
I spoke. I talked.
you got it. There you go. All right, cool. So the cool thing about this, like there's multiple cool things if you haven't seen that, but I can now share this link with you.
Oh, cool.
And where's my chat box? Share chat. Okay. All right, so I just put the link to this in the chat box. And I don't 100% understand how it all works, but you should be able to click on that and then get access to the set and should be able to somehow follow us or like see all the other sets that I have created. And this is just a really good way for you to practice.
Nice. That's really cool.
To practice. Cool. So how helpful
pretty
was
neat.
all of that?
Sí.
I like it.
Mucho.
Is that helpful?
Very nice.
You
My good
like,
stuff.
want to throw a tomate at me or something?
Oh. No, that's very good because it's really focused and narrow enough, like you said, that you don't get overwhelmed.
Huge part, I think, to be successful when it comes to learning how to speak a new language is you have to understand, you know, Rome was not built in a day. You know, I'm 37. I've been speaking English for 37 years of my life. And I'm accustomed to being able to communicate. But when I go into my new language, now I'm like a 2-year-old again. And it can be frustrating and you can just get so overwhelmed. And I'm a big fan. Let's make it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Focus on what's really going to help you, what you really need. And the grammar and everything, it'll fall in place in time. I promise you that. I was an 18-year-old college student 20 years ago, enrolling in the University of Colorado Boulder in a classroom full of 50 students and completely overwhelmed. In the college class, boom, boom, boom. They're moving super fast. You know, Angela, I told you we're not going to see the preterite for like 5 more months. Yeah,
Right.
after 2 weeks, they had us on the preterite in my college
Wow.
program.
Yeah.
Like just super duper. I mean,
Crazy.
we went through the entire language in a semester, 3 months to
Yep.
cover the entire language. After that semester, guess how much Spanish I was speaking? Hardly any. Your
Yeah.
brain cannot absorb that much.
Yeah.
And you just, so I was getting frustrated. I was losing it, I was like, man. So I kind of like decided, I gotta stop listening to my teacher, because this, like, the teacher isn't helping me learn Spanish at this point. And I thought about this, like, what is important to me? Well, and that's where I got onto this flashcard thing, like if I don't know the words, and that had actually come from a previous experience of living in Spain. I think I might have shared some of this with you. Before enrolling in that college course, when I was living, I thought you had to move to Spain to learn how to speak Spanish. And boy, talk about overwhelming. Try intensive Spanish immersion classes for 4 hours a day, living with a Spanish host family that does not speak English, with a teacher that does not speak English, with an environment where there's no English being spoken.
My anxiety would have been way up here.
You're starting from zero. Yes, it was challenging. So that's where I first got, I realized, like, after walking into random Spanish restaurants and ordering raw octopus enough times, like, when you get handed a plate of raw squid enough times, you realize something's not working. So that's where I realized, like, wow, I need to learn words that can help me order food at a restaurant, And so that's where I broke it down into this, like, I didn't understand my teacher. I didn't understand these conjugations. I didn't understand anything. Like, literally, I didn't understand what she was saying, but I really needed to eat something. So I got out my Spanish-English dictionary and just started looking up food items, going into restaurants and translating the menus and stuff like that. And that's when I realized, like, man, I don't need to speak the language perfectly. I just need to know the words and the vocabulary. Later in college, like, that same thing happened. Now I could understand my teacher because she was another American teaching me Spanish. So she was leading most of the class in English and just teaching us this, vocab and grammar and all this. And I was getting overwhelmed, like going from the present to the past to the future within a month. It was just completely mind-boggling. Yeah. So I stopped listening to her, and I just started focusing on the vocabulary. So, like, each lesson would have a special little box dedicated to new vocabulary, and they would, like, 100 words per lesson. And I would just sit down, write out all these flashcards, and then just study these flashcards. And over the years, I've come to learn about the importance of studying the Spanish side first, in terms of building up that comprehension and everything like that. But little by little, I started learning the words, and next thing you know, I just started acing all the tests, because I wasn't focused on the grammar. I was focused on understanding. And that's why I always say, the grammar falls in place. You don't have to study grammar. It will fall in place. It's not a bad idea to study grammar, but if it's confusing you and overwhelming you, like, trust me, it will fall in place. Now, what I can tell you is, if you do not even know the basic words, if you don't know that hablé means I talked and hablaste means you talked, you got nothing. So break it down by the words and study it that way. And that'll help. Cool. Wow, that took up 35 minutes.
That was a lot of information, though, in 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just your basic intro to the past tense, Then there's the ER and the IR verbs that have, let me go back to my, that's what I was going to do. I talk and I talk and I talk. So if I ever start getting off track, like, just let me know. Hey, hold on, you're about to teach us something else. Okay, so I'm going to clear all this off. Before I clear it off, do you want to take a picture of it, or do you want to?
Got it.
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
Always feel free to take notes with me or take screenshots. That's kind of the cool thing about doing this stuff online is you can take a screenshot. All right, so I'm going to clear this then. And now let's go to our ER and our IR verbs. So the good news here is this is pretty much the same for both of these.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
all right,
okay.
so let's take a verb like comer, and we're going to say, yo comí,
Comí.
tú comiste, and then a verb like vivir,
Mm-hmm.
yo viví, tú viviste. Ahí
Huh.
está.
Interesting. That's kind of cool. Starting to make sense with some of the songs that I've picked that I'm like, oh, I've seen that word. Huh.
Yeah. So I could ask a question like, ¿Dónde viviste en tu juventud? ¿Qué comiste anoche? Anybody?
Que significa juventud.
Juventud, your youth.
Yeah, you.
So that one, where did you live?
Ah,
I get that one
interesting.
out.
Your youth. Anybody have another ER or IR verb for me?
Discutir.
Discutiste con tu esposo or esposa.
Politics. Policia.
Bueno, vale. Ya, discutiste de la política
Política.
con tu esposo hoy. Yeah. What's another one? Leer.
Sí.
Sí.
Le-
Trying to think of other words.
Right. So this is a good little list just to get us started, right? So, Steve, ¿dónde viviste en tu juventud?
Viví en Ohio.
Maravilloso. Sally, ¿qué comiste anoche?
Anoche yo comí una ensalada.
Ángela, ¿discutiste de la política con tu esposo hoy?
Hoy means now. No, hoy means today.
Hoy means today, yeah.
Today, okay. No discutí.
Muy
Is that
bien.
how you say it?
Yep.
No discutí.
Okay. Steve, ¿leíste un buen libro el mes pasado?
Sí, Lee? Is it Lee? Leí. Muchos libros. Muchos libros.
Nice. Muy bien.
¿Qué
So,
significa the pasado?
el
What is
mes
that?
pasado would be like saying last month.
Oh, last
past
month. Okay.
Okay.
Bien. Yeah, so notice like we typically need a time reference here. En tu juventud, in your youth. Anoche, last night. hoy, today, el mes pasado, the last one. Like we're given a reference so that we know that the event or the activity has ended. Well, does anybody want to take a picture or take some notes on this one?
Already did. Gracias.
You're all set? Cool.
1 second.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. So now I can take you back over here. Back to Quizlet. So if I'm in, so this stuff is what we teach in our Intermedio Uno, our intermediate class, and you can see I've just got this little introduction. We've got IR and ER verbs. So we can click in here, and we do the same thing here. Let's switch the option over to English.
Comí.
I ate.
Comiste.
You ate, right? So I think you get the idea with this, right?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, between now and next week, now you've got a new tool that you can use, a new resource, this Quizlet page. So feel free to follow us on there
Very cool.
and go through any of the other sets. This is actually something that I've been trying to, I try to add new sets at least once a week on this. So
Cool.
And then, so another cool thing about Quizlet is too, this is where it really gets fun. Oh, you guys are so lucky.
That's funny.
So look, I just typed in a term, animals in Spanish, and of course, I'm not gonna find, look, there we go, Spanish animals. So everybody that uses this creates their sets, and then it becomes, publicly available for everybody. So we can just click on this person,
Interessante.
Un gato. Oh, this person's fancy. They've got
Oh,
they've got pictures too. Wow.
sí.
Trying to step up their A game.
A
That's
cat.
cool.
Un gato.
So literally, whatever
That's
you
really
want
cool.
to learn, whatever vocabulary is important to you, you just go into Quizlet and you type it in.
Interesting.
Bam, there you go. That's why I say you guys are lucky. I did this 20 years ago. I had to do it the old-fashioned way. And
I still do
nowadays,
it the old-fashioned way.
there's also there's these other options that you have down in here. This is just the flashcard feature. They've got games that you can play. You can play a matching game. You can play, there's different little, match, start game, make everything disappear. So we've got un pato, a duck, la cucaracha, una cucaracha, a tiger, un tigre.
Un caballo.
You drag it like that. Okay.
Nice.
I know.
Caballo.
Okay. And it times you. So for those who are very competitive.
So yeah.
Cool. I like
Play
that.
with Quizlet. I love Quizlet.
I feel like I used that for one of my classes when I was studying stuff, but I don't know. I didn't use the flashcard thing, but I used something else. So that
Yeah,
was
there's all kinds of stuff out there these days.
10 years ago or something.
So, any other topics that you would like some help with?
No.
If anybody can think anything. If not, I've got another little thing prepared. The good news is with me, there's never a dull moment. I've been doing this for a long time, and along the way, I've created all these great resources. So this is something that I can send you also when we get off the phone here, off the Zoom, what is this, off the cloud? So this is just a study guide that I wrote. It's a fun little ebook, and it's just called Study Tips for Learning How to Speak Spanish.
Cool.
And so if you look at I've got 15 tips 15 activities that you can do to start helping you improve your conversational Spanish skills sooner than later. What's that very first one? Flashcards.
Uh-huh.
So this just has a little introduction to it, you know, and the very first one here is flashcards, and I spell out specifically, you know, how to use it. This is back when I used to do the index cards, but you can recreate that with Quizlet, as I just showed you. And I just give other information here, you know, like I kind of explain kind of what I'm talking about here, like there's science behind this stuff, and other best practices, like only work with 10 cards at a time, at least initially. I don't know if you noticed those sets that I have created, they're in 10 card increments. I've got others that have more, but it kind of depends on the topic. But I think it's all about getting small victories, you know? Again, if you try and learn 1,000 words in one day, you're going to fail, you know, unless you're a genius or something like that. But it will more than likely cause you more problems. I had a student once that came in and she had just all been out of shape, telling me how hard it was to study with flashcards, and she just wasn't getting it, and she was really feeling bad about it, you know. And I said, okay, show me what you're doing, because I've never experienced this before. She pulled out a stack of flashcards this big.
Good Lord.
And I was like, well, there you go. Like, you don't even tell me anything else. This was somebody I'd had 2 lessons with. And she had created her own stack of flashcards this big. And I was like, you're
Okay.
You're trying to climb a mountain without, you know, taking the first step on the ladder. Like, you gotta take it easy, you know? So make it short and simple. Organize them by topic, by word type. So like if you're studying verbs, pick a verb tense, you know, past, present, future, and just isolate that one specific tense. And that's kind of what I told you to do last week, right, Sally? You're starting to tell me. You're muted, Sally.
Oops. There it goes.
Yes, you're exactly right, and it was very helpful. There are tons of YouTube videos for very narrow topics in Spanish, and I just talk it right into my remote what I want to watch, and they'll all pop up.
That's cool.
And many different teachers, you know, so you kind of get different styles teaching the same topic too, and that's helpful.
Yeah. I used to take mine and, like you said, on verbs, so I would have like just the first card say verbs or something, and then I would have them all stacked in that and paper clip it. So that way, that's how I kept them divided, and then that way I could just go through, like if that's what I was studying on, I'd go through that for a little bit, take a break, and then come back to it later.
Yeah, you have to. Good.
The other tip, David, that you suggested is studying a little bit every day and first thing in the morning. And that's been good for me too, to have some discipline around it.
Yeah, look at this. That's right there. Do this activity frequently, but for short periods of time.
Yes.
For example, try and do it 3 times a day for only 5 minutes at a time, like every time you sit down to eat a meal. If you do this, you'll be able to memorize and start using vocabulary immediately.
That's cool.
It only takes a time or two to go through this activity before it sticks to you, if you're doing it in small increments and if you're doing it frequently. You know, an hour worth of study is not just an hour worth of study. So if you break an hour into 6 10-minute increments, it is so much more powerful than breaking it into just 1 hour long or 2 30-minute sessions, for example. And part of that is to do with the constancy, to constantly, like when you go back to something often enough, do it for 5 minutes, leave it alone, come back to it in 2 hours and do it again. You're refreshing your memory, like you're constantly hitting the update button, right? Like when you're downloading new software and you hit that update button. That's essentially what it does. It keeps the brain up to date.
Yeah.
It's just keeping your brain up to date and keeping it fresh in your memory. versus where, you know, I've been doing this a really long time, and I have students, you know, that wait until the night before class to do their homework, you know, or wait till the night before the test to do the homework. Don't do that. It will never work very well for you, because then you're just trying to cram it in there, and it just doesn't, you know, your brain doesn't absorb it very well.
Mhm.
Questions, comments, concerns, tomatoes.
That's funny.
I used to joke with my staff when, you know, if I ever did a class, or if one of my teachers had done a class, you know, and they're walking out, and you know, I say, well, nobody threw a tomato at me, so I guess I did okay today.
So how do we get your study guide?
I just put it in the chat box here.
Oh, okay. I go to the chat box. Appreciate that.
Oh, and you can download it right from there. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we've only got 7 minutes left. Wow, it went by fast today.
Hey.
More questions, more comments. Keep them coming.
I have one. So we're going over the S star and stuff like that. How can I use the preterite that we were doing? I mean, granted, I know we got a while to do it, but like if I wanted to use like ablar with or not ablar, but like how do I basically what I'm asking is how can I apply that to what we've recently been going over with the SCR,
Yeah.
the SARE and the star?
That's an easy one. You cannot. And I'm not gonna there's also a time and a place for everything. SARE and star are, as you've seen, irregular, and they're also irregular in the past tense as well.
Oh, okay.
So
it's a lot of
try not to do that. Right?
Okay. Figured I'd ask.
Yeah, no, good question. Good question. And if we had more time, like another hour, I might get into that. But
okay. I was just curious.
With only 6 minutes left, I don't quite have enough time to get into that. Those are irregular. You know, there are a handful of verbs in Spanish that tend to be irregular in the past, in the present, like in almost all of the different forms, they're going to be slightly irregular, and so estar and ser are verbs that fall into that category.
Oh, okay.
So we will get to that, just not today.
That's fine.
That's the challenging part, is the many different forms of past tense in Spanish.
The other thing too, the thing about ser and estar is it's the verb to be, the verb be, the state of being. You know, a verb directly is an action, right? The state of being is a very odd action. I think I saw like in Russian, like the verb be doesn't even exist. So like it's kind of an odd verb. It really is. So like the other thing too about that is ser and estar are actually very, very rarely going to be used in the preterite, in the simple past tense like this, because this means we have a very well-defined start and stop point to it. And a state of being by nature is an ongoing thing that doesn't have a very well defined, like, so it's actually a very awkward verb to use in the preterite. In 999 out of 1,000 times, you're going to use the other past tense in Spanish, the imperfect, which has more to do with this ongoing activity in the past tense.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, good question though.
Because I figured, well, if I could use it with one of my words that I've been studying, so.
Yeah, but you can use it for all, like if you go back to your book from the first level, Angela, you know, all those activities that we did, flip it into the preterite, you know, especially on like lessons 4 and 5 and 6, where we're only working with the 2EO. Now you can go back and do those activities and apply the
Cool.
preterite to it if you want to.
Okay.
At the same time, you've got enough on your plate with what I'm teaching you.
Yeah. As long as it's not conjugation, I'm good, because I hate conjugation. I don't even remember like one thing from it when I took it in school, and that was 7 years ago.
Angel is in the fun class where we're learning the difference between ser and estar. So,
Oh, see.
Steve, have you learned ser and estar?
I have, and I often confuse them.
See.
So
I'm sure you
Yeah.
do.
Same here.
It's
How
gonna-
long
been a
have you, excuse me,
Go
how
ahead.
long have you been using Duolingo, Steve?
for about a year now,
Oh,
and
nice.
and I try to do something, every day. So I'm definitely keeping up with it. But as I mentioned when I first got on with David, is that it's really not helping me, have a conversation. Like I
Oh,
feel
I
like
know.
I'm learning
It doesn't.
things,
mhm.
but I still, I stumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
there,
like their podcasts too. Have you
Mhm.
listened
Yeah.
to any of their podcasts?
I've listened to some of the podcasts, and I like those. And I think that that really makes Dave made an important point about understanding, because that really helps you understand a conversation and understand
Mhm.
the language as you're listening to it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Having the English speaker is really helpful
Yeah.
to me in inserting, their commentary.
Mm-hmm.
well, keep working with the Duolingo. Steve, if you want to, I'd love to jump on a call with you, do an evaluation, and tell you about our Spanish classes, and see if we can get you enrolled. Because what we do is conversation classes, real small groups or private one-on-one lessons, and I always want to be careful with what I say, because I like Duolingo, so I never want to bash it or say anything negative about it, but it does have its limitations, and it's a tool for practice that, this is my entire life. So I know about these different approaches to learn, like a language there's so many different aspects to it, and there's no one size fits all. You kind of have to
Right.
look at what your goal is with the language, and then back up from there to see how to get there. Like you have to create a custom study plan for Steve, but where Duolingo is strong, I like the kind of gamified, like it's fun, it's interactive, like it's visually stimulating, and it's like it's got that competitive thing, the leaderboard, like so you're kind of like you feel pushed to get in there, and then that little silly owl is just funny, and but it's not practical. Like that's also another thing, the stuff that even like, especially in the first levels that like I use it for French, I use it for Swahili, like 2 other languages I've had an ongoing love affair with that I've never really gotten good at. But the stuff that it makes you say is like, oh, el gato está en mis pantalones, like the cat is in my pants, or the bear is eating a pizza, like
Yeah.
it's not. It's just
It helps with learning words, but to me that's it.
and that's where so I like, but I do like it. And I think the podcast, when you log into the Duolingo website, it gives you a lot more that's not available in the app on your phone. So yeah,
Should go
if
on
you
there
can
more
ever
often.
use it from your website, it's actually got a lot of really cool stuff.
I've done the app and I've done the podcast, but I haven't actually gone on their website, so I'll have to check that out.
But yeah, Steve, just stay in touch with me. I'll actually
Okay.
just put my website on here. So that's in the chat now. It's just thelanguageschool.us. We've got all kinds of reviews on Google. You can check us out. I do these weekly meetups. So like Sally has been studying with me since March, essentially since the
virus.
Since this is something. So I used to have a school here in Denver with 3 classrooms, and we would host these in person. And now that we've gone online, we're doing it virtually. But yeah, keep logging in on Wednesdays 3 to 4. For next week, it's helpful for me when you bring me activities to do, because that's the whole, this is homework help and tutoring. And then Steve, if you're available on Fridays from 10 to 11, we just do open conversation.
And
So-
Steve, there have been people from countries across the world
Mhm.
that have participated in
Yeah, it's
these
really cool.
sessions with David. And Spanish speakers learning English too, which has been a lot of fun.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually tried to do the Friday mornings, and
Oh,
I've had to like cancel like a couple of times that I've signed up for it because it's just a busy day for me. But yeah, I know I need to get more immersed, and I need to work on it, and it's not just going to happen, just by waiting for it to happen. It's going to happen if I work at it.
I'm here for you virtually via Zoom, and can definitely help you go to the next level.
That's great.
Yeah.
muchas gracias.
That's pretty much it from today. It's 4:03, so I'm gonna let you go. But stay in contact. Nos vemos muy pronto.
Sí, que
Hasta
te
luego.
vaya bien.
Adiós.
Adiós.